Hey guys, ready for today's lesson? Today is 14-4 and we are learning how to convert measurements today. So before I move on, what does the word convert mean? Okay. So let's say today I'm going to convert myself into a penguin. What am I trying to say? By now you should have thought convert probably means to change, right? So we're going to be changing measurements. So let's think back to yesterday. So we learned length measurements, which was inches, feet, yards, miles. And then we moved on to capacity, which is how much something can hold. And we had cups, we had quarts, we had pints, and we had gallons. And then we moved on to weight, which is how much something weighs, how heavy something is. We had ounces, we had pounds, and we had tons. Okay. Now, today for converting, there are going to be 3 other measurement types that you're going to have to know. Okay. So let's go back to capacity. So for capacity, we had cups, which, I showed you my little measuring cup, or the milks that you guys get for lunch. Those are cups. And then we had pints, which was the plastic water bottle that I showed you, or those little tubs of ice cream that you can get. Those are pints. And then a quart was the juice box that I showed you. And then a gallon is that big gallon of milk that has that handle that you can hold. Okay, so there's 3 other ones that you're gonna have to know for today. So the first one is a teaspoon. Okay, so you write that TSP. Okay, so TEASPOON, teaspoon. But the abbreviation for it, you know how inches you write it IN. For teaspoon, you write TSP. Okay, so in your drawer at home in your silverware, you should probably maybe have 2 different size spoons. Okay, so the smaller one is a teaspoon. And then you have the next one, which is a tablespoon. TABLESPOON. So tablespoon. And the abbreviation for that is, I believe it's TBSP. TBSP. So it's the bigger spoon. Okay, so here are my 2 spoons. The lighting is really bad. Okay. Teaspoon, tablespoon. See how the teaspoon fits inside the tablespoon? Okay, so this one is the teaspoon. And then we have a fluid ounce. So you might say, wait, isn't ounce weight? That's just an ounce. This one has an FL in front of it. It stands for fluid. Remember, we're working with capacity, how much something can hold. Why do you think it's fluid ounce? Well, if many of you remember from yesterday, I said capacity usually has to do with liquids, because how much something can hold, and usually that involves liquid. So fluid ounce, it's fluid because liquid. So if any of you guys have ever seen the little hand sanitizer bottles from Bath and Body Works, that is exactly 1 fluid ounce. Okay? All right. So you know how you guys had a best friend for fractions and I told you guys not to lose it or get rid of it? Okay. I can't give it to you, but you guys are going to have a best friend for this lesson specifically, okay? Because converting, there's a lot of things that you have to remember. So this behind me is going to be your best friend. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move out of the way. I'm going to get the camera closer to this. And I want you guys to copy this onto a paper that you have at home so that you can keep it. Or else you're going to have to keep coming back to this video and pressing play and pause to try to do your work, okay? So what I suggest you do right now is when I move out of the way, I suggest you pause the video, and I suggest you copy all of this down, okay? So I'm going to move out of the way really quick, move out for like 5 seconds. I want you to press pause, and then I'm going to come back and explain it, okay? So here's the top half of it. And then here is the bottom half of it. Okay. Hopefully you copied that, or else I'm telling you, you're going to have a hard time with this lesson if you don't have this paper in front of you when doing your work. Okay? Alright, so now let's explain. Alright, so converting measurements. Okay, we already know that convert or converting means to change. Okay? So here is length. Okay? I have 1 foot. I know that 1 foot is going to equal 12 inches. Okay, 1 foot has 12 inches in it. 1 yard has 36 inches in it, or 1 yard has 3 feet in it. These are both right, okay? But if we want to tell how many feet there are in a yard, we say 3 feet. If we want to say how many inches there are in a yard, we say 36 inches. Okay? Then we have 1 mile. And if I wanted to say how many feet there were in a mile, I would say 5,280 feet. Okay? And then we have 1 mile again. If I wanted to say how many yards were in a mile, I would say 1,760 yards. Okay? Now, to the right of it, you're going to see this thing called SuperY. Okay? This is going to be very helpful with these 3 conversions. Okay? The reason these have a red star is because they're not in this picture. So you're kind of just going to have to either memorize this or look back to the paper that you just copied down to go back and look. Okay? So a SuperY. A SuperY is 1 big yard. Okay, that's what the Y stands for, a yard. Then inside each yard, we have 3 feet, which I forgot to draw. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we have fixed it. Okay, in 1 yard, we have 3 feet. In each foot, there is 12 inches. So this foot has 12 inches, this foot has 12 inches, this foot has 12 inches. Okay, let's say I wanted to ask you, hey, how many inches are in 2 feet? Okay, those of you who know your multiplication or addition like this, you'll be able to see, okay, 2 feet. 1, 2, 12 plus 12, or 12 times 2, that's 24. Some of you who might have a hard time, you can say, okay, 2 feet. Miss SB wants to look at 2 feet. So this foot has 12 inches, and this foot has 12 inches. So if I want to know how many there are together, I might be able to add it, or I can do 12 times 2. Okay, so that's SuperY. Now we move on to capacity. Okay, capacity, if we have 1 tablespoon, remember that's the bigger spoon, 1 tablespoon can hold 3 teaspoons. Notice how I'm saying hold, okay? 1 fluid ounce, that's my little bottle of hand sanitizer, can hold 2 tablespoons. That's 2 of the big spoons. 1 cup, remember your milk carton or my little measuring cup for baking? 1 cup holds 8 fluid ounces. So 1 cup will hold 8 of those hand sanitizers. Okay. Why are there red stars here? Because they're not in the picture. That's going to help us right now. Okay. But these are 1 pint. Remember one of those plastic water bottles or 1 ice cream tub. 1 pint can hold 2 cups. 1 quart can hold 2 pints. And 1 gallon can hold 4 quarts. Now our helper for this is G unit. Okay. So as you can see, I have 1 big gallon. Okay, that's what the G stands for. Let's look. 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. How many Q's do you see in the gallon? 4, right? So 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. And then let's look at 1 quart. 1 quart is equal to 2 pints. So let's look at 1 quart. How many P's do we see in there? 2. 1, 2. And then 1 pint is equal to 2 cups. So let's look at one of the P's. Inside the P, we have 2 really small C's, standing for cup. Okay? Now, let's say I were to ask you, hey, how many pints are in 3 quarts? How many pints are in 3 quarts? So remember, pints are P's and Q's are quarts. How many pints are in 3 quarts? So I would just look at 3 quarts, 1, 2, 3, and then count the P's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What if I were to ask you, how many cups are in 1 gallon? So here's our G, 1 gallon. And I want to know how many cups are in there. Remember, cups are the little red ones. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 16 cups are in 1 gallon. Let's say I want to figure out how many cups are in 2 quarts. How many cups are in 2 quarts? So here I have 2 quarts, 1Q, 2Q. And here I have 4 cups. And here I have 4 cups. So 4 plus 4 is 8. Okay, so that's capacity. Now let's go down to weight. Okay, weight, 1 pound is as heavy as 16 ounces, and 1 ton is as heavy as 2,000 pounds. Now, over here we have Tammy ton. Okay, lucky for us, all of them are included in Tammy ton. There were no red stars over here. So, Tammy ton. We have 1 big T. Okay, it stands for a balance. You guys know what a balance is? When you put something on both sides, it balances out, or if one thing's heavier, it goes down on one side. Okay, so this T is balanced. It's showing us that 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. And then, down here at the bottom, we have a big hill. 1 ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. So, I hope you guys listened and copied that poster because now the work starts. Okay? So, along with this poster, there's one more thing that you're going to have to remember, or you can write it down right now on that same piece of paper. Okay? But there are 2 rules that you're going to need to follow. Okay? If you can't remember these rules, this is going to be super hard. Okay? I still get confused sometimes because I switch them up. That's why I have to write them down somewhere when I'm doing this lesson with students, because then I have to remember it like every single time that I do problems. Okay. So, the first rule. is when we go from big units to small units, we're going to be multiplying. Okay. Well, Miss Espy, what do you mean from big units to small units? Can you show us an example? Okay, so my example is, let's say we're going from quarts to pints. So now let's remember quarts. Quarts, that was my big juice box, right? And pints was my plastic water bottle. Okay, let me go get it. Okay, so this is quarts, and this is pints. Okay, so this is my bigger unit because it holds more, and this is my smaller unit because it holds less. So now let's look at my chart. I want to go from quart to pints. My bigger unit is going to the smaller unit. Okay, so I'm going from the number 1 to the number 2. Let's think about multiplication. Let's say I do 2 times 6. What is that? 2 times 6 is 18, right? So I multiplied the 2 to the 6, and I got a bigger number. Let's think here. If I multiply a 1 to a 2, I'm going to get a bigger number. Okay? Now, let's look at the second rule. The second rule is when we go from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, we're going to divide. Okay? An example is inches to feet. Okay? So remember, an inch is about as long as this marker cap. Okay? A foot is probably as long as this whiteboard. So now let's look at my two things. I'm going from an inch to 1 foot. I'm going from small unit to a big unit. 1 inch is smaller than 1 foot. When that happens, you're going to divide. Okay, so remember these rules, write them down. Okay, so now let's do some problems. Okay, the first problem. I want to turn 5 quarts into pints. 5 quarts into pints. Okay, how do I do that? So first, let's think. I'm going from quart to pint. I know quarts is that big juice box and pints the little water bottle. So I know I'm going to multiply, right? So I'm just going to put an X next to this problem. Okay. Now let's think. In 1 quart, how many pints are there? So this is how you're going to start every problem when you're converting. You're going to take one of these measurements, so 1 quart, and you're going to think, how many pints are in a quart? Well, that's why I said copy this down. So let's see. I'm going from quart to pints. So in 1 quart, there are 2 pints. Okay. So in 1 quart, there are 2 pints. Remember this. What do you think I'm going to do with this information that I just got? So if 1 quart is 2 pints, How many pints are in 5 quarts? Okay, you haven't figured it out by now. We're going to multiply 5 quarts times 2. That's going to give us 10. Okay, so our answer is 10 pints. Okay. Now, problem number 2. I have 84 inches, and I want to see how many feet are in 84 inches. So now let's think. I'm going from inches to feet. Does that mean I'm going to multiply or I'm going to divide? Remember my lid? I'm going from inches to feet. So when I go from small units to big units, I'm going to multiply. Divide. Okay, that's our rule. From small units to big units, we divide. So this is a very important step right here. This thinking step. So I have inches. Okay. What can I do here? If I have 1 inch, 1 inch is this tiny. There's no way there could be any feet in there. So what would I do? So now we're going to go this way. Okay. I know 1 inch equals nothing, but I know 1 foot will give me 12 inches. So what do you think I'm going to do with these two numbers? Think. I'm going to divide them. Okay. So I know my multiplication. So 84 divided by 12. If you need help, you're going to have to look on a multiplication chart or skip count. But 84 divided by 12 is equal to 7. So in 84 inches, there are 7 feet. Okay. Now another problem. I have 18 teaspoons, and I want to see how many tablespoons that is. Okay, so remember my spoons. My small one is my teaspoon, and my big one is my tablespoon. So I'm going from a smaller amount to a bigger amount. So if I'm going from small to big, I divide. Okay. So now let's look at my chart. In 1 tablespoon, I have 3 teaspoons. Okay. In 1 tablespoon, I have 3 teaspoons. So I'm just going to write in 1 tablespoon, I have 3 teaspoons. Okay. What are you going to do with your numbers? I know we're going to divide because I said that earlier, but what numbers are you going to divide? Yep. You're going to divide 18 teaspoons by 3 teaspoons. So 18 divided by 3, and that's going to give you 6, because we know that 6 times 3 equals 18. So how many teaspoons am I going to have? I'm going to have 6 teaspoons. Another one. Here I have 3 pounds, and I want to go to ounces. Okay, so let's think back to yesterday. Remember my Dodgers baseball? That's 1 pound. And then the key, my little keys, that was an ounce. So from a pound to an ounce, am I going from big to small or small to big? I'm going from big to small. So that means I'm going to multiply okay. So now here's that thinking part, okay? That really important part to every problem. So pounds and ounces. Let's look at my chart. In 1 pound, I have 16 ounces. So in 1 pound, I have 16 ounces. So what numbers am I going to multiply, since I already know I'm going to be multiplying? I'm going to be multiplying the 3 and the 16. So 16 times 3 is going to give, yikes, is going to give me 18. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1, eek, is 4. So I have 48 ounces. Okay, before I move on to the last 2 problems, I want you guys to see something. Notice that when I'm multiplying, I multiply the number that I'm converting from to the amount that is in the other measurement. So like here, I multiplied 3 to the 16 ounces. Over here on this one, I multiplied those 5 quarts to those 2 pints. But if I'm dividing, I'm going to be dividing by the same unit of measurement. So let's look down here. I have 48 inches. I know I want to go to feet, and in 1 foot there are 12 inches. I'm going to divide 84 inches by 12 inches. And this one, I have 18 teaspoons, and I want to convert it to tablespoons. 1 tablespoon equals 3 teaspoons, so I'm going to divide this 18 teaspoons by 3 teaspoons. Okay? All right, the last 2. So you might get some questions like this, so this is where knowing fractions is really important, okay? Let's say I have 3.5 feet, and I want to go to inches. So 1 foot and an inch. I'm going from a foot to an inch, so I'm going from big to small. Okay, that means I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to put my x up here so that I know I'm multiplying. And I do the same thing. Okay, I'm going from a foot to inch. So I know that in 1 foot, I have 12 inches. Okay? So I'm not even going to worry about the fraction right now. I'm just going to do this. So I'm going to multiply this 3 to this 12. That's going to give me 36, right? So 3 times 12 equals 36. Okay? So I got this part down. What about the half? Let's think about it. Okay. Half a foot. If 1 foot has 12 inches, and I'm working with a half a foot here, how many inches is that? 12 inches in 1 foot. What's half of 12? 6, right? So that leaves me 6 inches to work with. I need to say my amount in inches. So what do you think I do with this 36 and those 6 inches? You just add them together. So I have 6 plus 6 is 12. 3. So your answer is 42 inches. And last one. I have 2 1/3 yards, and I want to change them to feet. So remember, a yard is the length of this poster, and 1 foot is this. So I'm going from big to small. So once again, I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to put multiply, and I'm going from yards to feet. So I'm not even going to worry about my fraction right now. I know that in 1 yard, I have 3 feet. Okay. So I know that I'm going to multiply this 2 and this 3, and I'm going to get 6 feet. Okay. So far, I'm done with that part. That's 6 feet. Now, 1/3 of a yard. 1/3 of a yard. Let's think about it. Let's look at our super Y. Let's get closer. Can you guys see it? And let me bring you closer. All right, our super Y. In 1 yard, there are how many feet? 1, 2, 3. So if I cut my yard into parts for feet, I'm going to cut it into 3 parts. Okay? Remember, my problem is 1/3 of a yard, and I'm talking about feet. So if I were looking at my feet, it's cut into 3 parts, and I want 1/3 of that. How many feet would that be? Just 1. Remember? Cut it into 3 parts, and I want 1/3 of that part. So I have 6 feet, but I still have that 1/3. So instead of 6 feet, my answer is going to be 7 feet because I add that 1 foot to my answer. Okay? So instead of 6 feet, my answer is going to be 7 feet. Okay? And that's today's lesson. I repeat, if you did not pause the video and copy this down or this down, you better rewind the video and go back and do it now. Okay? Bye.